Today, we are diving into something huge, one of the biggest legal shakeups in India's entire history. We're talking about a complete overhaul of its criminal justice system. It's a brand new code for a new era, so let's get right into it. Just imagine for a second. What if the entire set of rules that define crime and punishment for, 1.4 billion people was just completely replaced? Well, that's not some hypothetical question. It's exactly what just happened in India for the first time in over a century and a half. So on the left, you've got the old rule book, the Indian Penal Code, which dates all the way back to 1860. I mean, this was a product of the British colonial era. And on the right, that's its replacement, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, or BNS, from 2023. And trust me, this is way more than just a name change. It's a fundamental shift in how India thinks about criminal justice, and that's what we're going to unpack today. So, what exactly is this Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita? The easiest way to think about it is like a complete system upgrade for India's criminal justice operating system. Seriously, it's not just about patching up a few old laws, it's about totally realigning the whole thing with the challenges and the values of India today. When you look at the official goal, it's pretty clear. They wanted to consolidate a bunch of scattered laws, amend the ones that are hopelessly outdated, and modernize the entire framework. It's really about creating one single, cohesive rulebook for crime that actually makes sense in the 21st century. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty and see how this actually works in practice. A massive part of the new code, a huge area of focus, is on crimes against women and children. The BNS comes in with much clearer definitions and way tougher penalties, which really signals a major shift in priorities. And the new code gets really specific. It clearly spells out offenses like sexual harassment, voyeurism, and stalking. But here's a big one. For the very first time, it actually criminalizes sexual intercourse by deceitful means. And that includes making false promises of marriage. This is a brand new protection that tackles a really long-standing and complex issue in Indian society. And if you want to see just how much stricter this new approach is, look no further. Under the old system, a life sentence could sometimes be interpreted as just a fixed number of years, while the BNS slams the door on that ambiguity. For repeat offenders of serious crimes like rape, imprisonment for life means exactly what it says, for the rest of that person's natural life. No wiggle room. And this focus isn't just on women. The code also seriously strengthens protections for kids. For instance, there's a new section that makes it a specific crime to hire or use a child to commit an offense. It's a direct shot at tackling the exploitation of minors in the criminal world. All right, so this isn't just about updating social laws from a bygone era. It's also about confronting very modern threats. For the first time ever in India's main penal code, the BNS introduces specific, detailed definitions for organized crime and terrorism. Just look at this definition. It is incredibly broad and comprehensive. By defining organized crime so clearly, the law can now go after criminal syndicates involved in everything from sophisticated cybercrime and extortion rings all the way to human trafficking. This gives law enforcement a really powerful new tool in their arsenal. Now this is another absolutely crucial change. India has had separate anti-terror laws before, sure, but actually writing a definition of a terrorist act into the primary penal code, that integrates it into the mainstream criminal justice system, which has some really significant legal implications. The law makes it super clear. To be considered a terrorist act, it has to have these components. There has to be a specific intent against the nation, the use of dangerous weapons or substances, it has to actually cause harm, and the whole point has to be to create terror. This step-by-step structure provides a ton of legal clarity on what is obviously an incredibly serious crime. Okay, now we're going to turn to one of the most debated, most talked about parts of this new code, offenses against the state. The BNS has actually repealed the highly controversial colonial-era law on sedition, a law that was often criticized for being used to stifle dissent. And it's replaced it with something new that has sparked a whole lot of conversation.
This table really gets to the heart of the change. The old sedition law, you see, was all about punishing disaffection against the government. But the new law shifts the focus entirely. It's no longer about protecting the government of the day from criticism. It's now about protecting the nation itself from acts that could threaten its very existence.
So, what does this new section actually punish? Well, it targets very specific, very severe actions, things like promoting secession, actively encouraging separatism, or waging an armed rebellion. The language is laser-focused on acts that endanger the very idea of India as a single sovereign nation. Whew, we have covered a lot of ground, from new protections for women all the way to redefining terrorism. So let's bring it all together. What are the key things you really need to take away from this whole new criminal code?
So in a nutshell, the BNS replaces a law from the 1860s. It puts a brand new emphasis on protecting the most vulnerable, women and children. It brings modern crimes like organized crime and terrorism into the main legal framework. It shifts the whole conversation from sedition against the government to acts against the entire nation. And when you put it all together, it's a really ambitious attempt to build a justice system for the India of today, not the India of the past.
And you know, it all comes back to this. The preamble, which is basically the mission statement of the law itself, says the whole purpose is to consolidate and amend. It's about creating order, clarity, and relevance in the country's most important criminal law. And that is a monumental task.
But here's the thing. Writing a new law is one thing. Actually putting it into practice is a whole other ballgame. The real test of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita is just getting started. So the big question we're all left with is this. How will the police, the lawyers, and the courts actually interpret and apply these new rules on the ground? That's the story that's really going to define the future of justice in India.